At Revive Our Hearts, we're so grateful for what God's done in 2019. Throughout the year, radio stations across the country have aired the Revive Our Hearts program 1,880 times per day. The Revive Our Hearts podcast received 93 million digital listens.
I listen to it pretty much every day, and I started listening to it when I was 16 and I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression, and it actually had substance to it instead of Netflix or something like that.
This year, Dana Gresh joined Revive Our Hearts as the program's co-host.
It's the fear of the Lord that's the home, the shelter for my children. And times like that really force you to look at what's true.
And we entered a strategic partnership with Pure Freedom, the ministry of Bob and Dana Gresh. Pure Freedom changed the name of their Secret Keeper Girl events this year. The new name, True Girl. This spreads the True Woman message to girls aged 8 to 12 and their moms. Robert and Nancy Walgamuth released their first book together, You Can Trust God to Write Your Story.
Your series on allowing God to write your story has been a tremendous blessing. My husband and I are once again raising our support to head back to the mission field. The Lord has now directed us to establish a church for our military abroad, and we are trusting Him to write our story.
To date, 4 million copies of Nancy's books have been distributed worldwide and translated into 31 languages. Revive Our Hearts released 2 new studies in the Women of the Bible series and supported those studies with the Women of the Bible podcast and videocast.
It is important for us to understand that even in the dark places, God is shining His light because He's at work.
Yeah, it's important not to become hopeless because He is our hope.
Nancy updated the Seeking Him Bible study and released a 12-part video series for small groups using Seeking Him.
Now you remember that in the first part of this Seeking Him series, we had several sessions on how to experience revival in our vertical relationship with the Lord. In the second half now, we're dealing with the practical outworking of that vertical relationship in our relationships with other people.
This fall, Nancy and the Revive Our Hearts team hosted over 30 Next Generation communicators for a Sisters in Ministry gathering at our headquarters. It was a time to encourage and strengthen these gifted Bible teachers. Revive Our Hearts hosted 2,700 women in Indianapolis for the Revive 19 conference. And more than 140,000 women were part of groups watching the live stream. We also hosted our first conference in South Africa, supporting a growing ministry there. We produced more than 50 Revive Our Hearts programs for Turkish radio.
İleride de muhtemelen böyle bir pozisyonda olmayacağız.
Aviva Nuestros Corazones continued to expand with 30 million digital listens.
I am very happy that Revive Our Hearts now has Aviva Nuestros Corazones. It has been a blessing for all Latin America, but for our church, being able to tell a girl, go listen to this podcast in Spanish, it has been a great blessing.
This is just a snapshot of how God has been at work through Revive Our Hearts in 2019, and we're excited for a new year of ministry ahead. Thank you for your part in making this possible. Your prayers, your encouragement, and your generosity have made an eternal difference to so many. In the year ahead, may the Lord use our combined efforts to help countless more women experience greater freedom, fullness, and fruitfulness in Christ.